7 p.m., starting a couple minutes late. I take it there's no public here, so there won't be any public comment. Nobody online. Okay, so let's continue with reviewing and voting on outstanding Finance Committee meeting minutes.
Want me to
So
discuss it?
No, all right. So we have two meeting minutes to add to review from the regular meeting 1/12/2025 and our meeting from Friday, February 20th, 2026. And want to just make a motion?
Make a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
Second?
Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye. Just three of
Yep,
us, right?
it passes 3-0. Yep. All right, we'll move on to the next item. This was, we're going to discuss the proposed fiscal year 27 townside budget documents. I did provide a couple items to the members. Basically, the preliminary cherry sheet estimates for Belchertown. That's really about all we had. Steve did provide, the town manager, I should say, did provide a document which has some significant data in it, which is one of the items I was trying to pull up, but I don't have it right here. So I don't know if we just want to discuss it. It had census data and
The report.
yeah, and a lot of stuff regarding police calls, ambulance calls, fire calls, and how significantly higher they are. It was
Yeah, we saw a little bit of a downtick in police calls this year. We're not sure where that came from, but it looks like an anomaly. That's the handout that I provided at the last tri-board meeting.
that is correct. Yes,
Yeah, so you should all have that. If not, I can email it to you.
I didn't email it out to everybody, but for some reason I can't pull it up right now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I handed out hard copies too, didn't I?
You did.
Perfect.
And so the cherry sheet is quite troubling. I mean, we have a net increase of $141,036. Anything to add to that, or?
It's not, I was not surprised by it. It's not an anomaly. We're just in that space
Yeah, it's pretty,
where our increases are.
yeah, pretty consistent with other years, right?
Recent years, anyway.
Yeah.
It says net available. Does that mean that that's good or bad?
So net available is all of the grand total of revenue,
Mhm.
but taking out offsets and taking out assessments.
Okay.
So when that comes to net available, which is $141,000 more than the current year.
So that is a good thing?
Yeah, well, better
Okay.
than,
They're going the other way.
right.
Yeah, exactly. But I just
Yeah,
wanna make sure.
you know, as Jill mentioned, it's pretty consistent over the last few years. And if, you know, she gave you a summary of the income and expense sheet, but I think at the tri-board meeting, you got the full document.
Mhm.
And if you look in there, you'll see the Chapter 70 increases and other things. But the state always manages to give and take away at the same time. So when you look at those offsets and assessments, those change every year too. And I think this year one went down and one went up a little bit. So that's why the net doesn't always work out right. But the process is still going on. The governor's budget was released. There'll be a budget released by the House of Representatives, and then there'll be a budget released by the Senate. And then they have a conference committee and reconcile the three. In the last couple of years, we've seen a little bit more money, but not a lot. I think last year it was in the tune of like 15,000, over what they had originally estimated. So I'm not counting on any relief from the state. I think, Brian's right to point it out that chapter set, the cherry sheet numbers are just dismal. We're not getting any help. So we really look hard towards our new growth, which I'm forecasting to probably decline slightly over the next couple of years. It's been declining. We also, we have our normal 2.5% increase, which goes on to the tax levy. And then any other, revenue sources that we find that's available. So, fees and this, other charges.
So instead of looking through the emails that I sent out, I looked at the email that Steve sent me.
There it is.
Look what showed up. Okay, so I don't want to, really beat this stuff because we're not going to be taking anything up and voting on anything today. But I just wanted to go through this because we didn't do it the last time. This here should really be nothing new. It has been brought up in previous meetings, but the demographic changes from Belchertown. And if I'm not mistaken, let's go right to exactly what this is. This number of residents we have right now, is this from the census or is this from birth certificates issued?
Well, there's two types of census. One's federal, one's local. So the 2020 is federal. The 2023 and 2025 would be local census.
Right.
And unfortunately, we don't always get a good return on those. So, they fluctuate every year. You'll see some growth, some decline. I think the next slide was where we actually looked at birth certificates and death certificates. And it does appear as though we had more death certificates issued in town than birth certificates. So, it's possible that we did see a slight decline last year, but I don't think it's as significant as what you're showing.
Okay, births and deaths here. Okay,
Yeah.
So, I mean, the thing to me that's the biggest number is the number of births.
Mm-hmm. Steadily declined.
Yeah, I would like to take the rate of birth from two. Let's see from where it's higher.
22.
Well, that's a little bit too close. From 2017 to 2025, and look at the school enrollment changed in that period, subtracting school choice students, and to see where we go. I mean, not for any other reason than just to have a good picture of it in our heads, because this doesn't tell the whole story, but it is significant.
Yeah, and the other story it tells us that we are an aging community. When you look back at the census data, you can see the number of people over 60 is a very high percentage of the town now.
Well, I mean the 5-year the birth certificates issued through the 5-year period, and 10 years ago, enormous difference when you add them all together. All right. All right, so I was looking at this here, and police calls for service. It certainly looks like it went up significantly from 2016.
Yeah, last year we had a large increase, and now it seems to have settled back out, but it's still an increase over 2 years ago.
All right, I understand what you're saying. Then from 24 to 25, there was a decrease.
This is the most striking data that I've been watching for 3 years now, and I just cannot believe what we're seeing with our fire and EMS calls.
So our population has gone up, but it hasn't gone up drastically.
But I feel like people are aging more.
Yeah.
Right. It goes back to that.
I think so.
Or
Yeah.
could it be a lot attributed to Christopher Heights or
It could be a lot of factors. Yeah.
not that that matters. I mean, the residents of town.
I mean, I'm not going to say it's all elderly. I think, healthcare has changed a lot. You used to go to your primary care physician to get stitched up or, a finger splint. Now they just tell you to go to the emergency room, And I think there's a little bit of a misconception out there that if you take a ride in an ambulance, you get preferential treatment when you get there. But the only thing they do is they bring you in one door and put you out in the other. You wait in the waiting room like everybody else. So
Some places you wait in the corridor.
there's people that don't own vehicles that need an ambulance ride to a hospital. So it could be a lot of different factors, but it certainly could be tied back to our aging community and the risk factors that elderly people face.
Although there's a lot more here in numbers for EMS as opposed to fire. Well, EMS is ambulance. I wonder if the rates are pretty accurate and the increases between the two. So
One of the things you'll notice on the income and expense sheet is we did bump up our ambulance revenue by $75,000 this year. The biggest problem we have with ambulance revenue is Medicaid and Medicare because they only pay pennies on the dollar, and that hurts us. Otherwise, if it wasn't for that one factor, we would be, well in the black.
well, fire inspections are a little different, but you can see they went up, but it's still not a lot.
The sheet, fire department mutual aid.
Mhm.
I didn't see our town on this, but I did see it says given and received. Is that something that we're getting, like for instance, Amherst says given, so that they give us 17, whatever, and I'm not sure what 17
Well,
stands
okay,
for.
one column represents how many times Amherst would have come to Belchertown, and the other column is Belchertown going to Amherst. So
Given is probably, we went to Amherst.
given is,
Okay.
yes.
They assisted us 21 times.
Okay.
So we're just about double in providing assistance as to receiving it.
Yeah, I think Palmer is a big part of that. Palmer went through a change in their ambulance service and relied on a lot of the surrounding towns last year. For that, I think you'll see that drop off.
Do we get reimbursed for that too?
For ambulance calls,
Yeah.
yes. Fire calls, no. But they had a private ambulance carrier, and they decided to bring the ambulance service into their fire services. So that's why that accounted for that transitional period.
You just answered my question.
Right? This is only 25. Is it similar to that? Is the trend increasing like everything else is?
I don't know. I'd have to go back and look. I think we've actually seen a decline in what we've needed for ambulance calls because we are now staffed fully right now.
And we picked up an ambulance too.
Yep.
So yeah, so I could see that, but what we're providing to other communities.
I don't know if it ticked up, it was because of Palmer. The other numbers.
Oh, it's clear right here.
Right. But that's the difference between having 24/7 staffing for 2 ambulances versus 3. If you can call another town or they can call us, it works out.
And this year, the Clap Memorial Library usage is significant, but it's also great that people are using it now. I don't think anybody's against.
Yeah, they're running into some difficulties this year. The organization of their book sales has been changing a little bit, and if they can continue to have book sales, they generate about $40,000 worth of revenue every year. If not, then that's going to be a game changer. They'll be looking at cutting staffing programs.
Okay. So here's all the other sub factors that they're providing. like that's money well spent. Um, So just like in police calls, there was a decline 24 to 25 at the senior center. But, 44,000 last year is a significant number. 2026 fiscal year, that's 8 full months now. So we might be around, still lower than the 46,000.
Mhm.
Yeah, but if you look at the footnotes, it talks about how COVID affected them too. So getting comparable numbers open all the time, I think would be different.
There hasn't been anything close to 2026.
No,
Yeah.
we're not done yet.
No. Recreation, that seems to be a steady increase. Looks like there was a significant decrease at the beginning of COVID, understandably. But other than that,
Yeah, I think we're double the pre-COVID numbers, so.
do they rely heavily on the budget the town provides, or do they?
Joe could
Self-sustained.
probably answer that better, but they do have a lot of different revolving accounts that they manage for their different programs. They pay for a lot through that.
They're programming the pool, the beach, and the other miscellaneous sports and activities are all through revolving funds, which means that the fees paid in to participate goes back out for paying for whatever is needed there. So for me, for what the service is, we're pretty, what we're paying out is pretty low. We have we have a handful of staff
Mhm.
that the town pays for, but there's not, the beach and pool have minimal amounts in their budget. So
So when like a capital project goes in, I mean, obviously that's completely separate. This doesn't include anything to do with that. So,
Well, they do use their revolving funds for capital. This year, Kyle's going to be resurfacing one of the pickleball courts with money generated from the pickleball fees. We did put it in a capital request, we put in a CPC request for bleachers, to replace some of the old bleachers. He did put in a capital request in conjunction with the Public Works Department to create a new soccer field where the old family center used to be. The marketing of the 7 acres across the street where the kids currently play is going to ramp up this year. So we're expecting we could lose that at any time. So we're hoping to get that funded as well. And that might have been CPC as well, or both. I don't remember now. But regardless, he does use that. Kyle also put in a capital request for the pool because we need new rates on the intakes. So it's a mix of both. These are assets of the town, and I think they're eligible for both. If we could fund them through revolving, good, but that's not always the case. Some of these repairs are pretty expensive.
Yeah, I didn't think about that acreage right there with all the fields on it. That's gonna be a lot of people looking for space.
Yeah. Yeah, we were able to reconfigure Foley Field so that there's, an area that we could use for both baseball and soccer.
Mhm.
We've done that in the past at Chestnut Hill Community School, and if we can get another soccer field here. We're also talking about maybe something up at Constantino Recreation Area. So we'll be able to get it done. It's just we have to invest some money.
not even gonna try to make sense of the DPW report.
Yeah, that's road mileage accepted over the last 20 years. It's all these new subdivisions. Right now, we only have one subdivision that's one of them's ready to go. The other one's real close, but less than mile of roadway. Over the last 20 years, it's amazing how many miles of road we've picked up and have been maintaining.
I did notice that there was a posting on the town Facebook page about the work that our building department has done. And I mean, the amount of building permits issued were really enormous.
Mhm.
And so I called up Jackie and I asked, I said, how many of these are for new construction? And it was like under 20. So
Yeah, and that's a problem because that's our new growth.
yeah, the new growth is really down. So perfect example, curb cut permits. 16.
Mhm.
It's almost half of what was done last year. Stormwater permits, 21. So,
Yeah, pretty consistent.
all right, well, I don't know if anybody's any more questions about that, but
No, I think every year there, we add a little to that report. We started it last year, and if there's things you think you want to see or have questions about, we'll put them in for next year. Do what we can, but it's a good cross section of what everybody's doing and how busy people are.
okay. All right, well, we can move on now, if you would like, to the school department,
I got
unless you have anything else.
Yeah, so let's just take a quick look at this income expense sheet. So first off, I'd just like to say that we do have line item budgets in the works. We're real close to having those ready to go. I was hoping to have them by tonight, but we still have a lot of balls in the air. So there shouldn't be any reason why they won't be available for the next tri-board meeting, because that's probably a few weeks out yet. But there's a lot of pieces that Jill and I are still putting together, including, the cuts. We were tasked with cutting $199,000. The schools were tasked with cutting $215,000. I'm also juggling money around trying to fill some gaps. We know that our communications director needs a few more hours a week. Our grant writer, that there's a huge return on that investment. We're trying to get a few more hours there. I've been trying to figure out how to get a part-time economic development planner in our planning office. So we're trying to put all those pieces together. And I think we're going to be able to address some of those needs, hopefully all of them. And, we're looking at other positions. I know over the years we've talked about lieutenant position at the second lieutenant position at the police department. They had one in the past. It was cut out of the budget. We've never brought it back. We need a deputy fire chief. Police department has a second in command and the fire chief does not. And part of that, as well as the second lieutenant, the economic development planner, all of those are things that we need to be talking about for succession planning as well. We need to make sure there's somebody there to transfer the institutional knowledge to, so that when they leave, that we can bring people in.
So
We're still working on trying to figure out, the best way to implement a finance director position. That may be in steps. We may want to try to do something short term and then a year or two out, change it up a little bit, try to get the position established before we move into a full-time type role. We know that our IT department is short-staffed. We're trying to find a few more hours for the part-time position down there. So a lot of that's going to be dependent on what we do with the next tri-board meeting with, free cash. We have a 50-50 split proposed right now. If that stays, then, we might be able to do a little more. If that goes to a 60-40, and Jill will talk about that, on this income and expense sheet, what kind of an impact that has on both the schools and the town, and it's fairly significant. So I'm trying to incorporate some succession planning into the budget cycle. I'm trying to incorporate some of our needs and especially to handle our areas of growth into the budget season. We know we have some savings from Pathfinder coming that we haven't talked about yet. We're gonna hear about that next week on, no,
The 11th.
March 11th.
Yeah.
It's been estimated to be upwards to $80,000. If we split that with the school 70-30 like we do, it puts another 25 grand in, on the table for me to use for some of these gaps that I'm trying to fill. So those are all things I want to bring to your attention. And then the final thing, before I let Jill go over the sheet, is we are working on a plan to pay off the loan from the stabilization this year. What we are hoping is that, it's going to send a message to the taxpayers that we're being responsible with their money. We promised to pay it back over 3. But we think because of the way health insurance was calculated, it was based on the employment at the time. When the health insurance rates went up, a lot of people went to their spouses. So we've had some savings in between the schools and the town. We think we might be able to come close. But that would be at the special. And there's no guarantees on that. I'll know more tomorrow. I'm probably speaking out of turn here, but the school department's finance committee is meeting tonight, and I'll have better answers for you tomorrow. But if that money is available, we'd like to pay it back, and then talk about that $108,000 that we took out of free cash and where that should go. There was one more thing before I turn it over to Jill. I know there has been some questions about that, maybe some of that extra money going into capital. We have a pretty good capital budget this year between the free cash and the $500,000 from the override. But we also have debt dropping off this year in the tune of about $250,000 a year in payments. And the DLS has been very clear that not only do we need to maintain our current level of debt, we should be adding debt. So I had the treasurer collector run the numbers on a $250,000 payment based on current interest rates. If we were to do a 10-year note, we could borrow about $2 million. If we went to a 20-year note, we could borrow $3,250,000. So we can cover a lot of capital with that. I think if we could do that, we need to build that into our planning right now. And then the following year, we might want to think about adding another 200, 250 to borrowing to try to, appease the DLS. And the big problem is, there's 2 problems. If we don't replace debt with debt, we're going to forego capital that should be done. And the second problem is if we don't replace that debt and we use that money, it's going to lower our bond rating. And we don't want to do that. So,
Making it more expensive to service the debt.
Really.
So that's all just stuff for you to chew on. I wasn't expecting any answers tonight, but I just wanted to let you know where our heads are and why you don't have line item budgets yet. So we're trying to manage a lot of questions.
So before you go to Jill, I just got one question. You talked about all the positions.
I only brought 2 of these, sorry.
I know you had a lot of we had a lot of discussion last year upon the override. Did those positions kind of run into a problem when the health insurance came in? So that those funds were not used for.
No, we didn't use any override
Okay.
funds. I mean, the only impact on the FY27 budget is we had to allocate money to cover the health insurance cost. It wasn't a one-time fee. So we would have had a much easier budget year this year if that money was still on the table. Health insurance is still a moving target as well. Again, that's why you don't have line item budgets. But, the projection right now is between 12.5% and 16%. We've budgeted 16%. We'll know tomorrow. Again, there's a lot going on tomorrow. The Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust Insurance Advisory Committee is taking up a vote to make some plan changes. If it passes, we're going to be looking closer to the 12.5%. If it fails, we're looking at around 16%. Many of the other groups out there are in the 8 to 12% range. So we're not really all that far off. And the consulting group working with the trust has identified some savings on pharmaceuticals. They're still digging into the health insurance side of things.
Mhm.
But they're projecting by the end of the year having the end of the calendar year, having a reserve fund of about $5 million. So they'd be heading back in the right direction. That's still way short of what they need, but at least we know we're heading in the right direction.
Are they looking to hire a new executive director?
That conversation hasn't started yet. If if I had my say in this, I would suggest that they contract the management of the trust out to a private firm.
Yeah.
I
agree.
They would probably still need some employees. They lost 2 employees. They lost the executive director and I think a more of a clerical position, but they still have one of the original employees managing the day-to-day stuff. So I would suggest they'd probably still need somebody, but I think the bigger decisions should probably be left up to a management firm.
Mhm.
And I think they still have their public health outreach coordinator as well.
One thing I was wondering about was looking at this. I know that there's some cost savings by shutting down one or more schools. Has that been factored into all this too?
Yeah, that the superintendent rolled that into his operating expenses
Okay.
to offset cost in other buildings.
Yep. That's good.
Right, so just the last question I have, Steve. You mentioned a succession plan. Do we expect a mass exodus, retirements in the next few years?
Yeah. I don't want to name names,
No.
but yes, we're looking at losing. We could lose 5 people. So if I don't start some succession planning now, we're going to be in trouble.
Wow.
Yep. So it's worth the investment. Quite frankly, we need these positions too, even if it wasn't for that, but it's just an added reason to do it. Yeah, I'd say in 2 years, 2 to 3 years, we're going to be having some significant turnover.
All right.
We're an aging town.
Well, good.
Going by quick.
So what I handed you looks exactly like what I gave you at the tri-board meeting, but this, I was asked to put together the numbers for 40% use of free cash versus the 50%. So the column is the override and free cash capital goes up with 40%. The use towards the budget, sorry, I'm not being clear. And the stabilization and OPEB also go up. The cuts, at the bottom, the cuts for 40% would be 298 for the schools, 298,000 for the schools, 234,000 for the town, which is a variance from what we're talking about now of $83,000 for the schools and $35,500 for the town. Would be additional cuts needed by utilizing 40% of free cash towards budgets, operating budgets versus 50%.
That's a good question.
Sure.
It says add amount of override delayed until FY27. So is that a journal entry or is that actual cash that will be coming?
The override included 6 firefighters that were previously on a grant.
Okay.
And that grant didn't end until during this fiscal year, this spring.
Okay.
So that money was not charged in taxes for fiscal 26 because we weren't using it.
Right. Okay.
So that's what that is. It's a set aside. It's that, and it's an ambulance and
The grant writer.
the grant writer. Those were not utilized last year. We were holding off, and so we did not fold those into the tax rate this year, but in FY27 we'll need to. And that money, I set it aside specifically so that there was a clear understanding of how the override was going to flow.
So the money theoretically is there.
Yeah.
It's just showing up in a journal entry per se here,
Yes.
so that it's not, yeah, okay,
It's considered excess capacity in our tax levy. So,
okay,
because
good.
we didn't charge it the first year.
All right.
Grant writer last year was paid out through ARPA funds, remaining ARPA funds.
Okay.
Those are going to be gone at the end of this year.
Mhm.
And the ambulance lease hasn't started yet. The ambulance is still being built, and it'll be here for FY27. But it's the first payment.
Thank you.
The override did not match the traditional town side, school side split. So we discussed,
Yeah, it was
Sure.
needs based.
yeah, showing it differently. Because the way it went out to the voters and the way that they voted, can't really change that because it just wouldn't be right. I don't know, anything else?
Yeah, outside of that, this report is just the same as the other. It's just that, the variance is different in the the capital as well as stabilization and OPEB changed.
Well, thanks.
Just one more thing. We're talking about different things that we're waiting to hear on. It's hurry up and wait season. We also are going to be having discussions with our general insurance agent that could possibly, we've added in, we put in an adder for that, and that could go either way. We're hoping it'll go down. We're also waiting on finishing bids for heating oil, diesel, and gasoline. And those are pretty substantial numbers within the budget. So there are quite a few unknowns still.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because looking at that, the report that Steve provided, I was looking at the EMS and how high it's getting. Does our liability insurance roll into that, or that being an enterprise fund, does it have its own?
It's not an enterprise fund.
It's not. It's
The liability is with all the rest of the town
okay.
because it's not a separate entity.
So with the increase, that could cause an increase to our overall.
Yes, but I don't think that's going to be a substantial change. I could be wrong. But
We'll
I don't
see.
think that'll cause a substantial change that in itself. But we're down a couple of buildings. Franklin's off and Cold Spring will be off. So that's going to help us.
Yeah, I'm expecting property and casualty insurance to, maybe I'm just being optimistic, but, we're dropping Cold Spring, Franklin School. I'm trying to get an RFP out for 6 and 8 Berkshire Ave. We don't know what we're doing with Tadjil yet. But last year we also had very few claims and they were insignificant. So I'm thinking that the renewal is going to be positive or negative, but in our favor.
Which is positive.
We were supposed to meet with our agent yesterday and decided to cancel the meeting. So we're going to reschedule that and get back to you. So, I mean, even if it stays relatively the same, we'll be able to pull some of the money back out of the budget that we put in there. We always try to estimate what we've seen in years past.
All right. Anything else on that? All right. Well, then let's move on to the next item, which is review some school budget documents. I think with just the three of us here, I don't think it's really appropriate to go through that again. I did have some thoughts on it, but we can go over that our next meeting. But let's just, it's already going to be March 1st next week or Sunday. When does this process have to be done this year? Is it end of April?
No, we want to be done beginning of April.
Right. So we have a month to.
We really should have 2 tri-board meetings on the books for March,
Okay,
unless we think we can get through it in one. But, you know, I think there's still some questions out there. How are we handling free cash 50/50 or 60/40? How are we going to handle the 108,000 if we can pay back stabilization of FY26? And what are we doing with those Pathfinder funds? We need answers to those questions so we can finalize the budget. You know, and because there's 3 different questions, you know, I would have to prepare 4 different budgets. I'd rather get the answers first.
yeah, I was going to put that on our agenda tonight and try to give a recommendation
Yeah.
to the
Well,
select board, but I
Yeah.
didn't think it was, that was premature before a tri-board meeting, before the whole thing was presented.
Yeah, and I wanted you to be able to think about it too, you know. So, and we'll have, you know, we'll have better information for the tri-board meeting. You know, we'll be able to tell you exactly what we're getting for our money.
Mhm.
You know, we're still working on some salaries and stuff.
Speaking of the Pathfinder amount, the Pathfinder amount will be a reduction to fixed costs. So with that, in my mind, it goes back into the budget.
And in what you provided us, it had it equals last year.
Yes.
It's not good. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's a significant amount.
Yeah, you know, you'll hear more detail on this on the 11th, but it sounds like we've had a slight reduction in enrollment in Belchertown, and they're also allowing for out-of-district students now, so it's, you know, helping offset some of those costs.
All right, do you want to move on to schools? The next one is be very short. It's like going over the thoughts on the school budget presentation. We'll have to hold off on that. But I did ask the school department to provide us their closeout numbers for their latest full fiscal year, and that was for fiscal year 25. And they did provide us their full budget reconciled at the end of the year. This is the report that they gave to DESI. So I really don't know how this will compare to their line item budget, but there's a lot of discussions when we first look at it, at the budget, when they provide it, regarding other revolving and special funds that they do not include in their request to Belchertown. And the reason I asked for this might help clarify some of those questions and can be part of the discussion. You know, there's a lot of salaries and stuff that are paid for it that on their initial request showed, you know, $0 next to it. It's always the same question. How's this getting paid for? But this will help that. So, I mean, that's all I'm going to say on that. I did tell them I was going to distribute it to the committee just for that purpose. Okay, we can move on to item number 6, which is discuss Chapter 70 aid calculation. I provided everybody a PowerPoint presentation from the state, which was on the governor's site. I like let's see, let's go to what slide number here. I'll tell you, I'll see it. I don't know exactly.
It's bigger.
Huh?
Yeah,
Oh, you printed the whole one out?
yeah, I couldn't read that.
Well, you should have printed them up for all of us.
You said you were going to provide it. So.
Okay, so if we go to like number 19, I believe it is. Okay, which is on page 5. Yes, I do. Um, 224. I know you can't really see, but it's 5 of the PowerPoint presentation, slide 19.
Or if you print it out, it's 19.
What we need to see, we can see. All right. So in reviewing this, I was really shocked to see how the state comes up with the Chapter 70 and the split between with the foundation budget and the split between Chapter 70 aid and local aid. So what they try to do is they try to have it consistent to average out at 41% state aid, Chapter 70, and 59% local contribution. And what goes into that is kind of that's where the concern is. So it's a 50-50 split, what makes up the local contribution. And this is all in slide 19. Income for the community. So they go by our tax returns at the state level. They look through our tax returns. I mean, that is what it is. The second one is property values.
So are they calculating the foundation budget community by community
It's different in every community.
in every community?
Every community is different. It is interesting. When I did send my email out with this information, I did have it did have the entire state on it. I only printed out what was relevant to Belchertown and what's next to Belchertown alphabetically, but just for the point of discussing it at this point. And the reason I'm bringing this up is I have approached John Wellhan, our assessor, and he did provide me with the documents that he sent to the state this year, which was, to put it mildly, a little disheartening. So, I mean, what he's did, it was great, but I'd like to figure out a way we can make this work in our favor any better with at least with something that we have some control over, which is minimal control over, but would be the property values. And there is so we're at 92, 93%. Different types of property have different values. But I believe the average is 93%. And that is put on that form, and the state uses an overall factor of 100. So everybody's on the same playing field when they put this together, but are they on the same playing field? I don't know.
Does commercial property help a town out?
It matters in what area. I mean, in Belchertown, you pay the same tax, whether it's commercial or residential, but is commercial worth more than residential? Some are, some aren't.
No, I know that.
You know, here in town, I would say most of our commercial value doesn't come anywhere near close to square foot cost of our new residential.
No, but the values are different because it's commercial a lot of times is a higher value based on its income, et cetera. And so what happens is, say, I don't know, where Tony's was located, that property might be worth $750, $1 million, whatever. Where somebody's house might be $450, $550. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if the town, not the town, but the state would assess that and allow more tax dollars for that, if you know what I mean.
I don't know how that is figured out, but that's the reason I'm bringing this up.
Yeah, okay.
So I did talk to Mike, forgive me for not knowing his last name, but he's the chair of the assessors. And he did say that he would, you know, we should have a meeting and have a discussion about this and see what we can do as a community to maybe leverage ourselves in the best position to get the best split, or see if we can increase our Chapter 70. Anyway, I mean, it might not be possible. I mean, the state puts these together to minimize what, you know, really what they put out. And
So the increased property values that just got assessed are in fact hurting us as far as this goes, correct?
correct.
Right. So we talked about that a couple meetings ago.
I mean, in theory, you
No,
know,
that's not theory. I
Yeah.
mean, that's black and white. So it's tough.
but assessing property is a very, very, very structured, very regulated factor. So there might not be anything that
Yeah,
we
I'm
can
not
do as a
sure if
community.
there's any discretion. I mean, everything that the assessors do is regulated by state agencies, and they do look at those things closely.
So, okay, so if we keep going into those pages where it gets to the big pages, Rick, no glasses needed.
Yeah, I already gave up, so I'll have to start over.
Once you get past the PowerPoint. Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, fiscal year 27, chapter 70, district summary. Go down to Belchertown, has our enrollment, what our foundation budget is, required contribution, chapter 78, and required net school spending. So on this form, you can compare to other communities. On this page that I have printed out, I mean, I did a front and back. So there's a handful of communities that are in our area. It's hard to compare Belchertown to a town out east that has like a like population and similar student population, because everything is so different. I mean, Belchertown's cost of living is at 75 to 80% of the state's cost of living. So there's a lot of significant variables there. But
Can you email this to me? Do you have?
Yeah. Yeah, so I can forward you the email.
Yeah, all 16 pages.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last page on here is a breakdown for Belchertown on how they come up with our foundation budget. Tells you how much you have to spend. I'm sorry, one of these cells for the junior middle school was not widened, but it's nothing that I can explain. I don't think there's many people this side of 146 that could explain this. But are you able to, Jill?
No. I would have to research it.
So basically in Belchertown, our per pupil budget is $14,280 what we're required to spend. And that's split between 70 and local for the previous document. It's 59-41, but that's not consistent. That's just the average. If you're a very wealthy town, I think it maxes out at 85% local aid. If you're, or very rural, more needy, large regional district, it'd be the complete opposite. So.
Yeah, I know in previous conversations with the superintendent, he had alluded to the fact that DESI may be looking at revising the formulas. And I don't know where that stands, but it sounds like it could be within the next couple of years.
They have to, or Massachusetts isn't going to be.
What I find out too often is when the state revises formulas, they benefit people in eastern Massachusetts more than western Massachusetts.
The voters, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but this is interesting, and if you go onto the onto the website, I mean it breaks it down right here. It talks about English learners for not grade level, but per group of grade level. Elementary, middle school, high school, and And it makes a lot of sense to what the superintendent and the school committee's been saying in some of these areas, just that it'd be good to have something like this in our hands where it can be followed.
Mhm.
It would make a lot more sense. So, all right. Since nobody can explain it, I guess there's no use moving forward with it, but it's really interesting, and I'll certainly forward that to you, Steve. And we can move on now to item 7, which is a 40R overlay district. Are you familiar with the 40R overlay district, Steve?
Vaguely.
Yeah, so I did approach Doug with this. Doug Albertson, our town planner. And he did mention that some years back in like 2012 or 11, when this was starting, this came out originally and was pushed. He did not feel that the political climate in town, or not him, but the planning board, did not feel that the political climate in town would support this. And it makes sense that he says that. Looking at it, in 2017, the state changed the program. And what I'm providing here is 2 documents. One is the 760 CMR, smart growth zoning districts and smart home zoning districts. That's basically 40R. And if you flip over to the next page, I printed out the cover sheet and I went into and printed out and highlighted payments and repayments. So because of the housing crisis here in Massachusetts, the state put this together, and there are payments to be made for certain housing projects in 40R overlay districts. For instance, just a couple of years ago, 1.5 years ago, Brissa had an application in of, I believe, if I go by memory, 111 units. The town bylaw required 10% of those units to be affordable. To be a 40R overlay district, you have to have 20% affordable. But with that said, that project would have got, Belchertown would have received a $200,000 payment from the state, plus other payments for permits pulled. It would depend. It's like $3,000 per, if you read down here, bonus payments on page, paragraph 2 on 59.06. Upon issuance of building permit for bonus units within an approved district, the municipality may apply for DHCD. I don't know what that means off the top of my head. For authorization of payment of a one-time bonus payment of $3,000 for each bonus unit and bonus payment application designed from the DHCD. And it continues with a lot of other items. You have to qualify. If you don't develop it in so many years, you have to repay the money to the state, of course. But here's another advantage to this, and it may or may not be an advantage to Belchertown at this time. But if you go to, let's see, 5907, paragraph 1G. It's highlighted. At the request of DHCD, the municipality shall provide for each approved district the number of children residing in a 40R projects and attending grades K through 12 public schools or charter schools, or receiving municipal school district financial assistance to attend out-of-district schools, and copies of submissions to the Department of Education and DOR pursuant to Mass General Law 40S, subchapter C, which provides every student from that district to get 100% of their foundation budget paid for by the state. So looking at that, I kind of rolled my eyes at it and said, there's got to be a catch to it. So I found this document from 2018, May 2018, the use of Chapter 40R in Massachusetts. I wrote on the top, review pages 6 and 7, 24 and 25 for financial impacts. And I printed those pages out and attached it. So municipalities or qualifying districts receiving a one-time zoning incentive payment, $10,000 to $600,000 for adapting overlay, depending on an increase. And as of right units allowed, the state may request payment if construction does not start within 3 years of drawdown, but so far has not. That was back in 2018. A $3,000 per unit payment when building permits are issued. School impact, reimbursement under a companion law, Chapter 40S. I mean, you can go through some of these other documents here. If you go on the next page, up on the top right, it breaks down the number of units in the zoning incentive payment. But then it goes down to the Chapter 40S. And I have reached out to the superintendent of schools to ask if he is aware of this, or if there's, I'm sure he has access to some of these resources or reports that we don't. But Chapter 40S provides school impact insurance subject to appropriation. It requires the state reimburse localities for school costs related to children who live in the new development and the 40R districts and attend a public school to the extent that those costs exceed the share of property tax revenues. And there's a couple issues, but when you go to the final page of this, again, I highlighted this. There are some issues with that. And Chapter 70 funding changes may affect whether your community would get that payment. And my question to the superintendent is, would being in a hold harmless state make it, irrelevant? And the reason I'm bringing this up is I was at another community's budgeting meeting a few weeks ago, and they have a 40R district, and nobody knew that they could get payments for any of this. I went up, I talked to them afterwards and forwarded them some of this stuff, but it seems like it's underutilized. With Belchertown being way under the 10% limit, or not limit, requirement. It's by no means a limit, but it's a minimum requirement. If we're going to bring in developments and require affordable housing, we might as well do it in a way that Belchertown can.
I don't know, I'd be careful with this too. It says right in there, it's been underfunded the past 3 years.
Yeah.
They have no money.
Yeah.
The reliability of payments, garbage. 1.5 million has been allocated. I mean, for the whole state.
Yeah.
I don't see it being.
Well, the other issue that I think we need to talk about is the district requirements in the introduction, that little side note on the edge there.
Mm-hmm.
Eligible locations, adequate infrastructure. I know we have holes in our infrastructure. Locations are difficult. You have to be within transit stations and commercial centers. Minimum density, minimum affordability, the district size. All of those things would have to be vetted pretty carefully on where we establish this. But we did receive a state grant this year through the One Stop program to study our zoning with the intent that we would look at all the zoning maps and try to determine where, we should be looking at business and commercial and residential versus what we have. Our zoning maps are quite old. And oftentimes any changes to them are a request of the property owner. So, I'm sure that this is something that's going to be, at least cursory review of it.
Mhm.
But I also agree with what Mike's saying, is I've seen too many state programs that are just too good to be true, and oftentimes they are too good to be true.
That's why I highlighted the
As
stuff.
I saw subject to funding.
Yeah.
In that 100+ unit apartment complex, that thing's kind of dead in the water, isn't it?
No, it's still in the works. There's still some movement on that. We don't know yet what's going to happen with it, but there is some movement. Now, that could fall into a 40R district potentially. Maybe that is something to look at for that area.
So just the reason I wanted to bring that up and consider it is if we wanted to, maybe make a recommendation to the planning board to at least consider it and see if it's viable at this point. This was a 2018 report. All those comments for 2018. A lot more money has gone into housing, especially housing with affordable consideration. It might be.
I understand what you're saying, but
Yeah.
I think a couple issues here is that we don't meet that minimum qualification. And I think maybe discussing, and I'm not saying you per se, but discussing somebody from that program, how viable is this, or is this just, pie in the sky, because we don't need people in the town, be it you, anybody else, doing all this work and then all of a sudden find out, oh yeah, that doesn't qualify, or that doesn't make it, or it needs this or it needs that. They got a clawback category there, which usually means that you got to give money back. So I think when I see stuff like that, for me, just back of my mind, I'm a little apprehensive to say, okay, what's the screw up that means I got to give the money back? But
That's why it should be looked into. That's what I think.
No, I understand.
I wouldn't.
Brian, can I ask a question? So
Yep.
are you suggesting we go from 10 to 20 affordable units on the state school property?
I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just saying we should look into a 40-hour overlay district and see if it makes sense at this time.
But it can only apply to one that's newly coming in, correct?
Well, you could put a 40-hour overlay over anywhere if it qualifies.
Could you
I
put
mean,
one over where there's already existing apartments?
would the students in that area qualify? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think new build. I think in order to get incentives and everything, you'd have to have new building. But all I did was look at those two documents and is it worth? I got you laughing over here, trying not to laugh out loud. Anyway,
It's out of my wheelhouse.
but Doug said that they're going to bring it up and look at it again. I don't know. I know that the Healy administration has really put a lot of money into moving forward with affordable units. I mean, they define what affordable is, 185 percent, or 85%. I'm sorry, 85% of the standard income for the area is affordable, and rent can't be more than 30% of the gross income.
Oh, it's not based on market? Interesting. A lot of times these type of programs are based on a percentage of market rent, so that.
Yeah, 85% market rent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the other thing I'm going to be cautious of is, while I agree we need to stabilize our student enrollment, I would be very concerned about rapid growth and not being able to plan for that. So again, I have no problem stabilizing that growth. We need to be careful, how fast we move in that direction. We just closed the school.
All right, we'll move on. I don't want to take a vote on it or anything now, but just wanted to bring that up and discuss it. Number 8, any questions from anybody?
I was kind of
Discussions?
wondering about, and I may have mentioned something to you about, we got the capital improvement committee, school committee. They have their own subcommittee for finance. I was wondering if it'd be worthwhile to open sort of an invite for them to give us an update on what they're doing so that we're familiar with all this stuff. So there's no, I guess you could say surprises. I'm not sure what the word I want to use, but just it's information where we have communications between the departments and committees and all this other stuff so that, if let's just say there's a shortfall some places, remember 3 months ago we discussed blah blah blah, and then they say, yeah, okay, so then we know what they're talking about. And so that was sort of my thought process about maybe inviting like someone from capital improvement, finance committee, from the school committee. I don't know if there's any other committees that spend money per se in budgetary form, but I thought that might be something that we might be interested in. So I'm just looking for input.
It is. So last month I did attend a capital planning improvement committee meeting.
Yep.
And we had a long discussion, and it went very well. Kind of stayed away since because I knew that they were going to be invited to a tri-board meeting to make a report. Last week, nobody represented them, although they did have a member on the meeting. So, and I know that's that's where the schools communicate is at the tri-board meeting.
Mm-hmm.
We can certainly reach out to them. I mean, I'm all for it. The more communication, the better.
That's what I'm talking about, extending an invitation, because obviously we can't just, it's not a demand, it's not a requirement, it's an invitation. We'd like to know what's going on just for the sake of it, an FYI, that's all. And, keep it cordial and nice. And
the other thing is to attend their meeting.
If they want us to attend, I mean, that was a thought because, I put my application in for the capital improvement committee. But now I'm starting to think, well, if they come here and tell us what's going on, I won't split myself too thin, if you know what I mean. I want to be utilized the best I can. So, but I just thought that if we invited people from these different areas to come here and say, hey, here's what's going on, here's why we're doing this, here's our thought process, and then we can assist them and say, yes, we understand, we can help and maybe voice our opinion. I'm not sure, but I think that that would be vital for communication purposes. That's all. Anybody else? Steve?
No, information is always good to have. I can tell you that the capital planning committee has finalized their year 1 recommendations for FY27. They're working on formatting their report, and they're also looking at organizing years 2 through 5 to include in there. So they'll have the bigger picture as well as the immediate recommendations. And if we go back to the borrowing discussion, some of the items in year 1 would probably not be eligible for borrowing, maybe too short term. So we may have to pull some stuff out of year 2. And, as of right now, there's the bigger projects at Jabers Brook Middle School are not on the year 1 list. They have some smaller projects, bathroom renovations and asbestos removal, but the roof and the doors and the windows, the big projects, the HVAC are I think the capital planning committee is trying to gather some more information on what's eligible for MSBA funds and what that program might look like and how long that might take, as well as, where do we see the student enrollment going in the future. So they have been making a lot of progress, and it's hard to, I think they have a tendency, like we all would, to try to gauge where the finances are when they're organizing the projects and ranking them. And, you know, it's hard to continually steer them away from that and just say, just rank them. Don't worry about the numbers. We'll deal with the numbers. But it might be good to get the two boards together and have a chat about, you know, how the two things do work together, because, you know, sometimes I think they're getting bogged down on, do we even have enough money?
Yeah.
And again, that shouldn't be, you know, just rank the projects objectively. Don't worry about the money. And if we can't afford it, we skip over it.
Should,
Or we
should,
borrow.
should the town consider a minimum amount of money every year from that in that fund? Like you were talking, 250, you will pay for so much. I know, you know, $500,000 a year will pay for about $8 million worth of work.
Yeah, so we have, right now we have 500,000 from the override directly going to capital every year, and then the free cash amount fluctuates. Jill and I, mainly Jill, has been advocating to establish a capital enterprise, not enterprise fund, capital stabilization fund, so that we can bank money for larger projects, maybe put a little aside every year. I think that's a great idea that she came up with it. You know, for long-term planning, to know that we have, you know, some money to fall back on. And again, the borrowing is the biggest thing right now. We need to borrow money. So I think we are going to tackle a lot of stuff relatively soon.
What did you call it again? The capitals?
Capital stabilization fund. Stabilization fund for capital projects.
Just asking for minutes purpose.
So, you know, it's just like at the house. You have a fund for travel. You have a fund for presents. You have a fund for fixing your home.
Not at my house.
I wish.
Well, I didn't say there's any money. You know, I have a bunch of coffee cans, but they're all empty. But they're all labeled nicely.
Exactly.
People walk in the house and see them there, they're like,
Yeah.
ooh.
Yeah, this guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
So, so do you want to go back to the, to inviting other committees? I mean,
Yeah, anybody?
do you want to make a motion on that, or is it something we even want to consider voting on, or just do it?
I right now, I think a discussion would be best, and maybe table it for our next meeting so that, you know, we'll be in March. You know, let's think this out so that it's well thought out, versus just throwing an invitation out, so that, you know, I want the invitation to be friendly and saying, let's play, let's talk, you know, and that's it. And then it's up to them if they want to join us or not, or whatever. I just think that it would be just a nice communication a communication device to get us up to snuff on really what's happening, because, you know, you're talking about the various programs and stuff like that. And when I was on capital improvement committee, I would have never known all this stuff. I mean, you know, it just amazes me, like all these programs and calculations and all this other stuff for the town to get revenue in order to operate. It's amazing.
So I have one question
Go ahead.
for everybody. So I did send out a notice, and I only received one response from Katie about attending Pathfinder on 3/11. If 3 or more of us are there, I probably have to post an agenda. Does anybody else want to attend that?
I don't think I can make it, unfortunately.
What day is that?
March 11th.
I think it's a Wednesday.
We have 3 select board members going. I'll be there as well.
Yeah,
It's a Wednesday.
yeah, I've got something scheduled on the 11th. Wednesdays aren't going to be good till April.
Yeah, I think I can go to that.
All right, Mike. So I will get an agenda in.
That's
That way we-
Pathfinder like usual.
That way we can participate in the conversation.
Well, if it's just you two, do you need a?
Oh, Katie's going to.
Oh, Katie's
Yeah,
going.
yeah,
Okay. Fine.
Katie did respond.
Okay.
So, that's all I have. All right, I guess that's it. Motion adjourned.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
7:56.
Adjourned. All right.
Cool.
Thank you for joining.